What is up, YouTube? This is Concordia Jedi Asher. I'm bringing you guys a new Star Wars What If. Today's video is What If Luke defeated Darth Vader on Bespin. In Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, we see Luke Skywalker rush off to Bespin despite the warnings of Master Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Upon his arrival and subsequent duel with the Dark Lord, Luke finds himself outmatched and barely able to keep pace with his opponent. He's soon defeated, losing both his hand and his lightsaber before discovering the very person who he thought responsible for his father's death was in fact Anakin Skywalker, his father. After refusing Vader's offer to rule the galaxy together, Luke lets go and falls to the bottom of Cloud City, where he's soon rescued by Leia, Lando, and Chewbacca. So while this is what happened in canon, what would happen if we took this story in a different direction? What if Luke managed to tap into his hatred of Vader and strike him down within the bowels of Cloud City? Let's find out. Luke's duel with Vader would play out most of the same until the moment where Vader knocks Luke down and tells him not to let himself be destroyed as Obi-Wan did. At this, Luke would be filled with rage, remembering how Vader struck down his friend and mentor. This monster was responsible for the deaths of both Ben and his father. Forgetting the words of his master, Luke would give in to his hatred and strike fast and hard at Vader, who would finally be on the defensive. Luke would not relent in using his rage to fuel him. As Vader would attempt a broad strike to Luke's torso, Luke would duck and swing his saber at the fallen Jedi. However, rather than making contact with his shoulder armor like he did in canon, Luke would angle his saber just a bit higher, making contact with Vader's neck and severing his head in one swift strike. Vader's head and helmet would fall down into the depths of Cloud City, and his body and cybernetics would crumple to the ground. Filled with a rush of righteous pride for ending the life of a murderer, Luke would take the fallen Sith Lord's weapon as a trophy. Luke could feel his power surge to heights it had never been before. Why had Yoda and Ben told him to avoid these powers and emotions? If he hadn't tapped into these abilities, he surely would have been killed. But he couldn't worry about that now. He had to escape. He would then leave the lifeless body of Vader and run to find his X-Wing, unaware of the true identity of the man he killed. After regrouping with Leia and the Alliance and finding out Han had been captured by Boba Fett and taken to Jabba, Luke and the Alliance would formulate a plan to rescue him. News of Vader's death would be kept quiet by the Emperor, who would have a decoy of the fallen Sith Lord attend public appearances in order to maintain its grasp on the galaxy. During the months between Empire and Jedi, Luke would grow stronger. However, he would delve into the darker emotions that helped him destroy Vader, all while ignoring the call from Ben through the Force. "I can find my own path, Ben," he would say. "I've grown far more powerful than even Vader. Soon, I will destroy the Emperor too and avenge my father." As the time of Return of the Jedi would draw near, Luke would set aside his father's blue lightsaber and construct a new lightsaber with a deep green blade, using pieces from Vader's saber so as to carry his trophy with him. As the time came for Luke to save Han and the others, he would enter Jabba's palace. From here, things would play relatively the same. Luke and the others would rescue Han, and Luke would fly back to Dagobah to complete his training with Yoda. Yoda would tell Luke that he is soon to die. Luke would respond with sadness. "I need your help, Master. I've come back to complete my training." Yoda would tell Luke that though he required no more training, he would not be ready to face the powers of the Emperor. Luke would be angered at this, feeling as though his powers were beyond that of anyone. Yoda would tell Luke that he must let go of his anger to have a chance against the Emperor. Yoda recognized the craving for power resonating deep inside Luke. It was the same craving he felt inside Anakin. As Luke would turn to leave, Yoda, with his final breaths, would tell Luke to let go of his lust for control, or he would suffer his father's fate as a slave to Palpatine. Luke would stop in his tracks. The realization would slowly dawn on him. His father was Vader, Anakin Skywalker. As Yoda's body would pass into the Force, Luke would leave the small hut with rage in his eyes, using the Force to crush a nearby rock until a voice called his name. Obi-Wan's spirit would appear to an enraged Luke. "You!" Luke would call. "Why didn't you tell me? You told me Vader betrayed and murdered Anakin Skywalker. Because of you, I killed my own father." Obi-Wan would attempt to calm Luke down by telling him he wasn't ready to hear the truth, but Luke would hear none of it. "I'm done with you, Ben. I'm more powerful now than I ever would have been as your student. I'm going to destroy the Emperor myself." Before closing the latch to his X-Wing, Luke would turn to Ben's spirit. "You failed both Skywalkers." Luke would leave the swamps of Dagobah with anger in his heart and regroup with the Alliance. From here, Luke, Han, and the others would head to the forest moon of Endor to knock out the shield generator. Things would play similarly until Luke's conversation with Leia on the bridge. Luke would tell Leia that he's going to turn himself over to the Emperor in order to get close enough to destroy him. Though Leia would protest, Luke would leave her and the others, and head off into the night to confront his destiny. Imperial troops would bring Luke before the Emperor, who would order them and his guards to leave the room. The Emperor would watch Luke Skywalker with great intensity. "I'm looking forward to completing your training," he would say. "In time, you will call me." The Emperor wouldn't even have time to finish his sentence, as Luke would call his lightsaber in his hand and attempt to strike the Emperor down, only to be met with a painful blast of Force lightning, bringing him to the floor. "Foolish boy," Palpatine would cackle. "Did you honestly believe that I would be as easy to destroy as your father was?" Luke would attempt to strike at him again, only to be met with another powerful blast of lightning. "You will soon learn just how inferior you are." Palpatine would fire more lightning and bring Luke to his knees. "Submit." Luke looked into the yellow eyes of the Emperor. "Never. I'm going to kill you." A smile crept over Palpatine's crooked teeth. "Perhaps you require more persuasion." Palpatine would press a button on his chair and speak into a microphone. "Destroy the forest moon and all the rebels on it." Luke would scream in anger, only to be brought to his knees once more by another barrage of lightning, as the Death Star cannon would completely obliterate the moon of Endor along with Leia, Han, and Chewie. Luke would immediately charge at the Emperor, who would fire one more incinerating blast of Force lightning, bringing Luke once more to his knees. "You now have one choice. Join me or die. Either way, you will suffer the same fate as Lord Vader." Realizing every mistake, Luke would submit. Like his father before him, he would be a broken slave to the might of the Emperor. Using the massive explosion of the forest moon of Endor, the Imperial fleet would swiftly wipe out the rest of the Rebel Alliance. The Emperor would walk slowly over to Luke. "Come, my apprentice. Your training will begin soon." So anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end it. I know parts of this one were a bit far-fetched, but I do believe that if Luke had given in to his anger, he would have eventually become a slave to Palpatine just like Vader. I feel like Luke's powers growing in the dark side during this scenario would have eventually caused his overconfidence to be his final downfall against the Emperor. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you next time. May the Force be with you.